Okay, welcome everybody. This will be Civil Discourse number 23. We're going to be interviewing Will Duffy. He is going to be joining us very shortly. I just got a message that he is rebooting his computer. Sorry about that. I think with the beginning got cut off a little bit. This is Civil Discourse number 23. We are going to be interviewing Will Duffy, the creator of The Final Experiment, and he's going to be joining us very, very shortly. I got a message that he was rebooting his computer. Just to address, Ready Geezer 1, the only dishonesty was in keeping a secret. It's kind of like if you were planning a surprise party for somebody and someone says, are you guys going to throw me a party? Well, you're going to lie in the moment because you're going to reveal the party. It's going to be a surprise. So if there is something where, there is a surprise, you're going to reveal, then that's the only thing that he was quote unquote, less than forthright about. It's because he had been planning this thing for a bunch of months and he was trying to build up anticipation. So in the moment, he did not reveal that he was the guy behind the final experiment. And then once he did the big reveal, well, then there's where's the lie? He just was concealing his own identity temporarily. Anyway, so he's going to be with us very, very shortly. So just for those of you who aren't familiar, Will Duffy has been sort of paying attention, watching kind of from the sidelines. And here he is. All right, so let me introduce the man himself. Let's please give a big warm welcome to Will Duffy. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, sorry I'm late. I was having some technical issues, but I made it through. So,
all right, let me get my microphone turned on because I try to do the audio thing. Thank you so very, very much. And I'm so sorry about the mix up with the join link and it's like 3 minus 2 is 1, but 3 plus 2 is 5, and 1 does not equal 5.
Got it.
Will, can you please very briefly introduce yourself and tell us what the final experiment is about? I was just saying a few words to the audience, and then we'll jump in with our interview.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah. So my name is Will Duffy. I currently pastor a small church outside of Denver, Colorado. And I came up with the final experiment well over a year ago, which is an attempt to give us some finality to the debate over the shape of the earth. I believe that the experiment I came up with will settle the debate. I do believe there's agreement from both sides that it would settle the debate one way or the other. And the experiment is simply this. One of the biggest differences between the globe and the flat earth is the south. On a globe, when you go to the south, everything gets smaller, but on a flat earth, everything gets bigger. And so we're going to go to Antarctica and see what the sun does, because on the globe model, there should be what's known as a 24-hour sun, which is a sun that never sets if you're far enough south. And on a flat earth, that's just physically impossible. So if we go to Antarctica this December and there is a 24-hour sun, we live on a globe. If there's not, we live on a flat earth. So that's pretty much it.
And I will say this, Will, I've been kind of paying attention to the flat earth debate, discussion, whatever you want to call it. I actually got my start in 2008. So I actually predate all the players of the field, before Mark Sargent, before Eric Dubé. Back when it was just on text message boards, before YouTube was a big thing. So it's interesting that the language behind the flat earth discussion has changed. They used to talk about bendy light. Bendy light has now been renamed perspective. They used to talk about universal upward acceleration, which apparently now is a disinformation campaign. And the third biggest change is that no one said the word shill. No one said the word shill. So way back then in 2008, if you disagreed about the shape of the Earth, you just disagreed about the shape of the Earth. And it's unfortunate that lately, if you say the Earth is a globe, well, you're just a NASA shill. So it's unfortunate. Hey, so Will, let me just jump in. I've got a couple of slides prepared. So I do want to say that the bad news, Will, is that you have to cancel your project because there is no 24-hour sun in Antarctica. The AE map's been proven correct. And because if you look at this detail, there's only one camera allowed. Did you know that?
Oh,
In all of Antarctica. So,
nobody made me aware of that, unfortunately.
yeah, well, Flat Earth Banjo has apparently the inside skinny, and apparently it's taken you 666 takes to film your Netflix documentary. So,
What a number! What a number!
but what I was saying earlier is that, Will, this is the first time in all of my experience with Flat Earth that someone has kicked the hornet's nest. And it's just amazing to see all the activity and all the backpedaling, the furious backpedaling by the people who, like you said, they said, oh, we have to go to Antarctica. And then now you offer to go to Antarctica. You're like, no, it's, of course there's a 24-hour sun. I've never seen so much backpedaling in my life. Has that surprised you?
It has. Yeah, it definitely has. So my goal with this was to have something that both sides would be super excited about, that both sides would be jumping on, both sides would want to participate, both sides would want to crowdfund, and it's really largely been one-sided. So
it's it strikes me that there are some people who are like not really interested in the truth, like they're interested in their cocoon and they like to call it truth, but when somebody like you comes out and says, hey, I'm going to pay for the trip, then all of a sudden they're not really interested in the truth. The truth kind of scares them a little bit, which is unfortunate. Have you seen, let me see, have you seen Jaron's latest video? I think he released it yesterday, where he was talking about this and he was kind of defending his desire to go. And so he said these 3 facts. And he said, like, most of flat Earth should agree with these facts. I guess maybe number 3 is in contention because there is no model, there is no map. But were you able to see the presentation by Jaron where he was basically?
So I was not able to see the whole thing, but I did see a clip of it, and I did see these 3 points. And I think that he's right about these 3 points. I think these are 3 things that we should all agree on going into this. And if somebody disagrees, I would love to hear why.
Right. It seems the biggest disagreement is by people who they just want to take the third way, which is no way. And that is, we don't have a map. We don't have a model. We live in reality. So, the demonstrable realist or folks like Bev who say, they live in reality. And, of course, the Earth is not flat because there are mountains and hills and valleys. But it seems to be a cop-out, like if you were to take a camera and just fly up with a drone, maybe a rocket-powered drone, and look down, like at some point when you get high enough up, Italy looks like a boot. It doesn't look like a boot when you're standing in Italy,
Right.
But if you get high enough up, Italy looks like a boot. Well, what if you go even higher? What if you go so high you can see all the countries of the world? Like, what is that shape? And there's people who they refuse to even ask that question because they know they really don't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah. So imagine if the globe side did this. Okay. Imagine if there was an experiment done and it was supposed to go one way for the globe side and it didn't. Imagine if we responded with, well, you know what? Our map is wrong. No big deal. The size of the Earth is wrong. No big deal. We still live on a globe. You can still just know we live on a globe. They would never accept that, right?
Right.
They'd be all over us for that.
Double standards. Some people say if flat earthers didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. Okay, I've got a couple quick questions from some audience participants before the live stream that I want to go through with you.
Awesome. You can ask anything, by the way. There's some guy in here that I think is upset with me. We can ask his question too. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay. So these are the ones I just prepared from the slideshow, and we'll take a look. And if you see a question, like, I'm assuming, like, you've got the chat window open in front of you. If you want to address something like that, it's a free form discussion, so we can take it into whatever direction. But Petey, who's really a wizard at GeoGebra, he's asking if you have any contingency plans if something stops any of the participants from traveling. And who else do we know so far is going?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot. Right now, Jaron Campanella of Jaronism, Austin Whitsitt of Whitsitt Gets It have both said they're going to go. They both said it multiple times. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get them to allow me to publicly do a video saying they're going, like I did for Dave McKeegan. And they're like, whoa, hold on. We're not quite ready for that yet, Will, which is fine. And so where it stands right now is Austin wants to have me on his show. He wants to ask me some questions. He wants to feel comfortable before he makes a full committal, and that's fine. So I'm working on getting a hold of him and getting that scheduled. In terms of contingency plan, I've got 21 contingency plans right now. So I invited 24 flat earthers and 24 globe earthers. The number 24 is important to the final experiment. It's the year we're in, 2024. We're going to see whether or not there's a 24-hour sun. So 24 flat earthers, 24 globe earthers. The first globe earther, Dave McKeegan, accepted. He's going to Antarctica. And now I'm just going to go one by one through all 24 flat earthers. So if Jaron and Austin back out, which I think would be a little weird considering they're both committed, then I'll just go to the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And so I think it would look really bad if 0 of 24 flat earthers decided to go. But I do have other flat earthers who are not on the list of 24 that have volunteered to go. And so we're just going to keep going down the list. And I highly doubt we will end up with nobody willing to go.
Okay. Well, that's very good news, because I was getting a little worried that there was a bit of shifting goalposts on the part of some of the invitees. It's almost like they're calling your bluff, but they're like, well, let me just see if I could change the rules on you. And I'm not quite sure how that works with a paid invitation, but so it looks like you've got it covered.
Yeah, I'm not worried. Yeah, everybody can just keep following. We will get this figured out here in the next couple of weeks, I think.
Good deal. All right. So Crow XE asks, why flat earthers have been denying the 25, or the flat earthers who have been denying the 24-hour sun all the time, they recently started finding excuses. Mm-hmm. So do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I do. This is one of those times where I wish it was possible to really know the truth, because we can't, right? Unless someone admits it, which I don't expect. So what this person has noticed, which is accurate, is that for all these years, and again, I got to give you credit for being involved since 2008. I don't know anybody that was involved prior to 2014. So you take the cake there. But anyway, all these years, so a minimum of a decade, approaching 2 decades for you, they have stated emphatically there is no 24-hour sun in Antarctica. And they've said that for 2 reasons. The biggest of which is that it does not work on their model. It simply does not work. The second reason they've said that is because they felt pretty confident that there's no evidence of it. And so if they feel confident about something, they'll make a statement like that. Now that the final experiment is here, now that we're going to Antarctica, you definitely see a change. You hear a change in how they talk. They're starting to say things like, well, it doesn't matter. We shouldn't look at the lights in the sky to tell us about the shape of the earth, yada, yada, yada. And then they're even trying to pull out some things like, well, this person says there's no 24-hour sun, so therefore we know it's not. Here's a video of a sun setting in Antarctica, so therefore what's the point in going? And I hope they all realize this, right? I hope they all realize how they sound on the outside, because it's like, okay, if you're confident in your model and you're confident there is a 24-hour sun, then you should actually be excited for us to go, because then this will put the final nail in the coffin of the globe, is what it will do. but they're not doing that. They're trying to stop the trip. They're trying to say people shouldn't go. And so it's very, very interesting, to say the very least.
I think there's a bit of psychology. Like my own pet theory is that the most hardcore flat earthers know subconsciously it's a globe. But that this belief is really on the surface level, and that their brain is going to try to protect the two halves of their, that they're protecting them from cognitive dissonance. That's my little pet theory. Okay, here's another question. It's something about looking at an old Bible. I have no idea what this question is asking about. Old Bible in England.
This is a very fascinating story. This is a very fascinating story. So there is a group, I guess I would call them a group of people that refer to themselves as King James only. And I don't know them perfectly. I'm going to do my best to represent them, but pretty much their position is that the King James Bible is pretty much the only inspired Bible, and that all the other Bibles are wrong, have errors in them, are messed up, etc. And so I was going to be debating someone who was King James only. His name was Will Kinney. And so in my research preparing for the debate, I learned that the 1611 King James, what they did to make it is they actually started with a 1602 Bishop's Bible. And they took that and they used the original languages, Hebrew and Greek, and they would go through, and as they were translating, if there was a thing that they thought was wrong in the 1602 Bishop's Bible, they'd cross it out, fix it, and then sometimes they'd add they would add a margin note as to why they were fixing it. Well, in my research, I learned that one of the original 1602 Bishop's Bibles with the original handwriting from the translators in 1611 still exists. And it's in England, and it's a national treasure of England. And so I ended up finding out where it was located, which is the Bodleian Library in Oxford. And I reached out to that library. I made friends with someone who worked there, and she was so impressed with me that I was from the United States, that I cared about this Bible and just the relationship we built. And she said, "I'll let you look at it." Wow. And this is something that is not available, by the way. It's kept in, storage. It's not like it's on display or anything. So I flew to Oxford, and I was able to spend a day and a half. They let me spend a day and a half with this Bible, and it was just so cool. I also took pictures of it, which there really weren't any pictures. I don't think there was any color pictures that had ever been taken. And the funnest part of the whole thing was this. While I was looking at it, there was obviously people monitoring me and everything, because they want to make sure I'm not going to steal it or something like that. A guy walked up behind me and kept his distance, and he said, "Is that the 1602 Bishop's Bible?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I've never seen that like in person." And it turns out he was an Oxford professor. He was some sort of a religious studies professor, and he was just blown away that something that he knows about that he's never seen, I was sitting there with. And so, yeah, that's what that is. That's why I was there.
That's fantastic. And so when you looked at this Bishop's Bible, it did confirm that there's a dome, a firmament dome. And
I didn't see that in this Bible, but I also didn't look at every page. So.
That was in the 1601 Bishop's Bible.
Gotcha.
So, okay.
Gotcha.
All right. So quick question here. Why do you deny science? From Sean G.
So Sean, I think, interviewed me, which was a good interview. And I'm not sure what he's asking about. I would say that I don't deny science, but I would also say that I am a bit of a free thinker. And so I do have disagreements with certain things. Science to me, is not this. It's not math, okay? Math, I love math. I've always liked math more than science. Math is very, it has strict rules. Usually there's only one answer. But with science, it's like, man, we're trying to figure something out that really no one knows. We're trying to figure things out as to how they happened when no one was present to see it. And so there's a lot of interpretation and theories put forth. And so I do have disagreements when there is what you would call a consensus on certain issues, and that's life.
I have to ask you about and if you don't want to answer, but you said that no question is off the table. Young Earth creationism versus Big Bang cosmology. Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I am currently open on this. So my current position, which is what it's been for years, is I'm young Earth.
Okay.
Now, here's one of the issues I have though, is that I don't know how to figure out who's right. So here's the example I like to use with people because it's easy to understand. Hypothetically, if God made a tree, a fully mature tree full of tree rings, and I was to go look at that tree with somebody, one person might say, this tree has to be this old because of the rings. And I would say, well, maybe it was just made and created by God to be mature. I don't think there's a way for either of us to know which one of us is right, because theoretically, God could have also just planted a seed and waited until the tree matured, but he can also create a mature universe. So that's a debate that I think is going to be very difficult to actually solve. And so it doesn't hold a lot of weight for me, but I do consider myself young Earth. And I also tell people I'm open to old Earth. And if people want to interview me on that or talk about that, I'm willing to after December.
Okay. I've got a question a little bit later on in my slideshow that I may put a little bug in your ear with regards to this. That's a great example about the tree. You know, create a tree, and that tree has tree rings. That's a really great example. Let me go to my next question. And I think another interviewer asked you this, and you said you'd have to think about this. But do you think that flat Earth belief is a faith? I mean, not that it's a religious faith with scripture and everything, but like in the person's heart, you know, do you think that there is a correlation between believing in the flat Earth and things that are like we have with our own personal faith?
You know, for some people, yes, but for others, no. So like I look at a guy like Eric Dubé. I've got a video I'm dropping about him tomorrow, and he doesn't seem like a man of faith to me. I'm pretty sure he denies the historical Jesus, which is insane to me. And I just don't see a man of faith there, yet he believes that the earth is flat. So I think there are people who are flat earthers that are just coming at this from like, hey, it looks flat. It doesn't feel like we're spinning. I don't buy the government stuff. I don't buy the NASA stuff. And I think for them, it's just, that's where they're at based on how they feel about what they experience and the evidence being presented to them. But I would say a lot of flat earthers, it's definitely tied to their faith. They do believe this is what the Bible teaches. They do believe that there is this massive conspiracy to hide God. And so, yes, it's definitely tied to their faith in that regard.
Okay. If I could just share my own personal thoughts on this, and I used to be an atheist. I got baptized 7 years ago at age 50.
Wow.
So I was over 30 years an atheist. And it wasn't a hardcore, you know, like theists are crazy. I was raised in a nice, you know, Protestant church, UCC denomination. I just didn't have faith. And when I came to the realization I didn't have faith, I was like, all right, so I'm an atheist. And I've been that way for 30 years. And I have a very interesting conversion story. But I got converted by the Holy Ghost on the floor of my living room. And I'm now a disciple of Jesus Christ. Now, having said all that, you could hand me a bulleted list written by the top atheists in the world. 10 reasons why God doesn't exist. And I could tell you that the list is wrong without even reading it. Okay. Because I have faith. I know God is real. I know Jesus Christ is my savior. Okay. So you can hand me a bulleted list. Your bulleted list is not going to shake my faith. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the analogy. Flat earthers, I believe flat earthers do have faith. And that we could hand them a bulleted list of 10 reasons why the earth is a globe. They don't even need to read it. You know, they already know the bullets are wrong. So for example, one item on the bulleted list by an atheist would be, if God were real, he would not allow children to suffer. All right. And it's like, okay, that seems like a reasonable reason, but I know that God transcends, time and space, and that we here on Earth, it's a blip in time. And so, yes, we do have children who suffer, but that does not preclude the existence of God, because God has got the big picture, So, and I could knock down all the other 9 bullets, So that's my thought on that. But I used to think that you could convince flat earthers with enough facts and logic that you could kind of sway them. And if someone's a hardcore flat earther, no amount of facts and logic will sway them.
Yeah, by the way, you are touching on something, which is one of the reasons I came up with this particular experiment. Is I heard from their side that this is what would prove the globe and that this is what would falsify what they believed. So that's huge, right? That's huge.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is what would falsify or prove their side, only if you don't actually go to Antarctica. You're only allowed to talk about going to Antarctica. As soon as you make plans, well, there you go. You got to sweep that aside. Okay, here's another question for you. Does the Bible say the earth is flat?
Yeah, the answer is no. The Bible never says the earth is flat. I don't believe the Bible was written to tell us the shape of the earth. Most of what I would call the created universe, I believe God wanted us to seek out, wanted us to figure out. That's part of what makes living here so exciting and so fun. And so, no, it definitely doesn't. There's some things that are veiled that I think would lend credibility to the globe model, and some things that might also appear at first glance to lend credibility to the flat earth model. And so I don't think that is where we should go. Where we should go for this particular debate is reality. And we want to make sure that whatever reality is, we're not going to create an interpretation of scripture that contradicts reality, because then you're only going to look insane to someone. Yes. So best example I have, which is not even valid, but it's just easy for even a child to understand, is if we think the Bible says that the sky is green, but we know the sky is blue, we're not going to say, well, no, the sky must be green, even though it's not. We're going to say, okay, let's go look at this word that we're translating as green. Let's go understand what it meant, what they actually said. We don't want reality that everybody can see and experience to contradict our interpretation of the Bible.
All right. Well said. Next question. Now this is getting to maybe the flat or the young Earth versus Big Bang, but it's really more on the side of flat Earth versus globe Earth. And this is something at some point I want to pull on this thread, but can God be a deceiver, and does Satan have dominion over the natural world? In other words, can we be fooled by looking at things in the natural world? Like, for example, the eclipse. Some people said that thing that covered the sun was a manifestation of Satan. Satan put that up there, to cover the sun, but that wasn't the moon, couldn't be the moon, So I don't know if this is kind of a little metaphysical question, but what are your thoughts on this?
No, I love this. So this is going to shock a lot of people, but you need to know I've put a lot of time into this. And if you really want to understand my position, I've got a 4-part series on this. But the answer to can God be a deceiver is yes, absolutely. We have a record throughout the Bible of God using deception. The Bible talks about the fact that God will, use deception in the future. And so absolutely he can, but his intentions are righteous. So he's not going to be a deceiver for some sinful purpose. And so a lot of times we look at that, we look at deception as just inherently sinful and wrong, but it's just not. It's definitely not. And actually, we don't need to talk about all this. We don't have to talk about this, but I can talk about this for hours. Most people cannot define the word lie when it wouldn't include things like jokes or surprises. Okay. It's very difficult. I spent hundreds of hours studying this, trying to come up with what I thought was a solid answer on, is it always wrong to lie? Is it always wrong to deceive? Is there a difference between deception and lying? And so I really do think I did a good job on this. So anyway, yes, God can deceive. Now, is God creating a mature universe deception? And the answer to that is no, absolutely not. Let me just give an example that literally just came to me as we were sitting here. If your grandmother uses her hands to knit you a sweater and she gives it to you every Christmas, and you just look forward to getting your sweater from grandma every Christmas, and then all of a sudden one year the sewing machine is invented and she uses that instead, it's not deceptive, right?
Right.
She's just using a different method to make it. If you believe that the sweater was made by hand, that's wrong. It's a false belief, but it doesn't mean there was any deception going on there. So that's big. In terms of Satan, which was the second part of that question, I do believe Satan has some form of dominion over the natural world, but I believe it's limited. I believe it's, governed, to use that term, by God, meaning he can't just do it whatever he wants. There's limits as to how much reign he has and what he's allowed to do. But yes, in a sense, he absolutely does have dominion over the natural world. And I do think that, spiritual warfare is very real and something that should be taken seriously. So,
okay, those are fascinating answers, and I'm going to agree to disagree with you, but if I could just share my take, because I study, I'm a geometry guy. I taught geometry for many years. I'm a high school math teacher, and when you study the heavens, we can know with mathematical precision the position of every star, obviously the sun and the moon and the planets, with extraordinary precision in the heliocentric model. Like everything we observe screams heliocentric model. And so for the Earth to be flat and the sky to be, wherever the stuff needs to be, I mean, that's just the way it is. Perspective. It's just perspective. Well, that means that there's like a deliberate deception going on, that we are being presented an image that would be true if heliocentrism was correct, but it turns out that it's really flat, and like, I think that's a grand deception that I do not believe in. And I would actually say the same thing with the young Earth versus the Big Bang cosmology, in that there's just so much evidence, like literally all the evidence points to the Earth being about 4.5 billion years old. And I totally get what you're saying about, like, well, God could have created the Earth, just boom, which includes all the evidence, right? All the evidence of an old Earth, and that's, I think that would be a bit like deception. Like, if I don't believe, anyway. But this is just my personal thoughts.
It's fun. It's fun.
And with regards to Satan, I believe that Satan has dominion over men's hearts. So that's, because Satan's a great deceiver, But all right, let's. Do I have another question? Yes, I do. So there's all sorts of accusations of people lying. Globers say the flat earthers are lying. Like, the globers say that a lot, and I think that flat earthers genuinely have this belief, and so they're not really lying. Maybe they're not intellectually as curious as we might want them. But do you believe there's as much dishonesty as is claimed on many sides?
Yeah, so it's definitely claimed by both sides. It's a little bit different, right? So the globe side is mainly saying that the flat earthers are lying, that they're grifting, yada, yada, yada. The flat earth side is mainly saying that, like, NASA's lying, people who claim they've been to the moon are lying. And so the claims of lying do happen on both sides. The difficulty I have here is how to determine if someone's actually lying, right? There's no trials going on that we can see someone being cross-examined. And so if someone just doesn't come out and just say, hey, I apologize, what I said was not true, and tell exactly what was going on in their mind when they said it, it's difficult to come down and know with certainty if they are lying or not. So I am not a fan of calling someone a liar unless I've got really good evidence to support that.
Yeah. Frequently globers will, present all these facts that prove a globe. And then when flat earthers don't immediately drop their beliefs and accept the globe, they call them liars. And so I agree with you. If the intent to deceive is not there. And if the person genuinely believes, one position,
Mhm.
and they're just sort of swatting away these facts, I don't believe that that's lying. So here's a more of a religious themed question. Because I am a disciple of Jesus Christ, and I try to treat people kindly. And I know there's a lot of viciousness, a lot of ill treatment in this debate. I know there are some Globers who are in this debate for sport. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Let's make fun of these stupid flat earthers. And
Mhm.
I've always not really been a fan of that, the mockery that goes on. So how can we participants in the flat earth discussion be more Christ-like? And this goes for both people on both sides.
Yeah, so there's a ton of vitriol, there's a ton of hatred. It's just really nasty. Um, it's sad to me. So I have a terrible memory. People should know that. And so if someone finds something that I forgot about, then please bring it to my attention and I'll apologize for it. But I can't recall treating flat earthers poorly ever since I've been involved in this debate, which goes back to mid 2021. I don't use the terms that people use to refer to flat earthers. Jaron Campanella, who we mentioned before, who runs the channel Jaronism, he was doing a show in the last few weeks, I don't remember when, and he was just like, globe earthers don't even treat us like human beings. Like, they treat us like we're lesser than human beings. And I was just like, man, that's terrible. And so before we even get to whether or not that's true, we just have to acknowledge that he feels that. If he feels that, that means something is causing that. And so I've stayed out of the mocking, I've stayed out of the making fun of and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, hey, let's treat each other like fellow human beings. And we can do this amicably. We can do this cordially. We can collaborate. And so the spirit of what I was looking for with the final experiment hasn't happened yet, unfortunately, but that's where I was going with this. And I was hoping that this would, help kind of bring these two sides together, which seem to be separated right now by an impassable gulf.
And I agree with you 100%. And I believe that our Globe ambassador, Dave McKeegan, is an excellent choice because his content, he may have a couple of humorous asides here and there, but it's pretty much a straightforward analysis of either the photography, the lenses, the geometry, or whatever it is. And I can't think of a single time that Dave McKeegan has been insulting or belittling or, he just presents things, obviously flat earthers don't agree with that, but I think he's an excellent choice. And I'm glad that he's the top guy, because I really would love people to become more Christ-like. Like, I think like the solution to the world's problems, I believe, is if everybody became a disciple of Christ, or at least, even if you don't believe in Christ, if you just acted like a disciple of Christ, the world would be a better place. So
I agree.
yeah,
I agree completely.
yeah, it is unfortunate. And I try to turn the other cheek. Like I'll be in some of these, Discord channels, and somebody will just be like real vicious. And sometimes I just respond like, I will never use profanity. I will not insult you or call you names. Like, that's my response to being cursed out and called all sorts of names. So I just try my best. One question off the top of my head, if we could return to the final experiment, is like next steps. And I think you've spoken about this a little bit. Like, you'd like to have those on-screen discussions with two of our flat top contenders, but there has been some uncertainty as to whether you're going. And I'm assuming that you have a budget for this. Like, my understanding is that you're not Dr. Evil, made of money, $1 million. So it's like, the stuff does cost money. So what's the next steps for you?
Yeah, it's true. I do have less money than Elon Musk. So I'm committed to going. I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but I'm also a doer and I get things done. So it might involve crowdfunding. It might involve calling up some wealthy friends of mine and talking to them about this if they're not already aware of it. But yeah, I am committed to going. And so as it stands, if everything goes smoothly, which I hope it will, it'll be myself, Dave McKeegan, Jaron Campanella and Austin Whitsitt, going to Antarctica. Now that's just the people that I have, that I'm going to essentially going to either be paying for or funding. There are others who are going. Someone on the Globe side, he has a YouTube channel called Critical Think. He's committed to going. He's actually crowdfunding. And so you can find his crowdfund on GoFundMe if you want to see another Glober go. I'm excited for him to go because he's actually going to be doing an experiment in Antarctica that is not tied to the final experiment. And it's an experiment that I don't think has been done before. And so we don't know what the results will be. So the Globe side and the Flat Earth side, in my opinion, should be excited about him going and doing this experiment. So it's fun. There's still plenty of time for people to sign up. Anyone can go, anyone can crowdfund. And yeah.
And I have Critical Think's link to his fundraiser in the description of this video. Yeah, Critical Think. He's great. I always love how he starts his videos. He's like, from down under, and then he has like a bunch of people applauding, and then he's like, yes, thank you. Every video he has a crowd applauding him, and I just think that's so cheerful. But specifically, he's been carrying scales. I forget how many places on Earth he's carried these scales with like a little reference weight, and it would be great. And it's proportional to latitude. It's whatever the centrifugal force would be compared to your latitude, that would change the weight of things. So yeah, Critical Think. He's a great guy to help crowdfund. So you said that you're committed to, I guess it's now 4 of you. So that would be really, really fantastic. And I'm glad that you said that if things don't work out with the 2 flat earthers who are currently on track, that you've got other folks who are going to possibly go. All right. That's the end of my slides. Do you have any, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the chat going by. I really try to focus on my guest when I'm having these live streams. So I don't know if you happen to see any good questions that have scrolled by, but yeah, that's what I had prepared. I'm really, really grateful for your time. I'd like to finish up in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. So one guy in the question just asked me, what core depth can we drill to? So I'm gonna put my flat Earth hat on and answer, and then I'll put my globe Earth hat on and answer. Sound good? So here we go. Flat Earth hat here. I don't know. Globe Earth hat. I don't know. I don't think either side knows the answer to that.
Yeah, I think there's like the Kola. I don't know if it's called Kola borehole in Russia, and I think they went down, I don't know, less than 10 miles. I'll say less than 10 miles. I think it was probably only a few miles. And I'm from an engineering background, and people don't realize the amazing difficulty it is in drilling down through rock. And my understanding is with that certain borehole, they were just going to see how far they could go. And at some point, it was just like, all right, we're putting in all this effort and we're just only making feet, inches and feet of progress. And it's like, all right, so at some point, you're going to just stop pouring money into the ground, which is what they were doing. So, yeah, what core depth. Let me see. There was a couple interesting comments, but I like this one. At least you're all critically thinking. So, that's really the key is critical thinking. If we could just get more people to do critical thinking and to look at the evidence. I'm an evidence guy, and I've searched for 16 years of evidence for a flat Earth, and I haven't found any.
Can you put up Real Nye the Science Guy's comment from the time difference? The time will be different. What time zone are you?
I'm in Eastern, so it's like five something p.m. Just say
his comment from 5:37.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me just scroll up. 37. Oops. If I can, here we go.
Okay, cool. I want to respond to this. So the comment is, globeheads don't believe in God and flatheads believe in God will stop deceiving people. So this is false. Okay. you have two people here who believe we live on a globe and we believe in God. And so this is just kind of like a generalization, but the reality is, even though there's a lot of flat earthers who believe in God and there's a lot of people on the globe side that don't believe in God, there is still who knows how many people that are on the globe side, considering it's the vast majority of people on Earth, who do believe in God. And as I mentioned, we have prominent flat earthers who don't believe in God and who reject even Jesus as a person. And so this is one of the things that I'm hoping we can kind of shine a light on through the final experiment. You see, if I didn't think of doing this, but had I first said before I announced who I was that it was a pastor behind the final experiment, most people probably would have assumed it must be a flat earther. But the reality is that I am on the globe side. So,
and thank you for doing this. And thank you very much for your time. You've got some young kids at home, right? Because
I have 5 kids.
Okay. And because I heard you made mention of like homeschooling a bit,
Yep.
because I got 4 kids, and they take a lot of time, and obviously I'm married and want to spend time with my family, and so I really appreciate all the time that you've taken away from your family to join us. So
Yeah,
any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I would just encourage people to check out our website. You can link it below, but it's thefinalexperiment.com with dashes, the-final-experiment.com. Follow us on YouTube, where you will get updates, latest and greatest updates on everything. If people have suggestions for the final experiment, we love those. Suggestions to make it better, suggestions on, problems that we might run into that we can start thinking of how to solve. The purpose of this is to make this the final experiment, which means we got to think these things through ahead of time and just be prepared for whatever curveballs might come our way. And look forward to hearing from everyone. The suggestions we've already received are great. Videos people make are great. And so I'm really thankful and humbled by all of the attention so far, and hope to make this something historic.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time. And I'll put all those links in the description once this thing gets published.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.